I think when it comes to gratitude, it's important to get out of the victim mode.
So if two people both come from a challenging background, so maybe their parents were divorced or they didn't have parents around, absentee parents, what's required for those two people to actually make a healthy, successful relationship work?
One of the fascinating things to me in research is that they've identified identical twins that were raised in different families, and one of the families was quite abusive. You cannot always tell which one is which. It kind of throws us into a tizzy sometimes as psychologists or psychotherapists. But what I think that says is that the decisions that somebody makes watching what's going on and the decisions to be conscious of, to get feedback about what's going on, to get mentors, makes all the difference.
You can have the same parenting. You can have two siblings in the same household, and they're very different because in some cases, they grow up and they're in their adult relationship in reaction to that, let's say, the abusive parent. And then the sibling may be modeling that behavior. So it's important really to understand that as well, where it's coming from.
One of the things that helps couples like that, if they can take a step back and be curious about themselves, their own behavior, and certainly be curious about what their partner's behavior is about. What are you feeling? Tell me more about what upsets you. Curiosity is a wonderful thing for couples.
I think it also depends on being hurt. So in the attachment world, people who are insecure might have suffered from relational trauma, small t trauma. But there are people who have unresolved loss or trauma. And they find each other because, again, people pair bond by recognition. The problem those people face is a problem actually with the brain. And if there's a lot of unresolved trauma, the brain actually changes. And it changes in a way that it begins to adapt to protect the person from danger. The problem is that a traumatized brain sees danger everywhere, in the face of their partner, in the eyes, and the voice, and so on. And in those cases, I think it is a great assistance to have a third person to help with that. Because I do believe that partners can heal each other's past wounds. And even traumatized partners can have a secure, functioning relationship. So I don't think that keeps anybody from having that. But it does complicate things.
One of the things that can make a real difference, too, is if people get it, that you can look at the Gestalt picture that we all had in our psychology books. There was the lovely young woman and the person who had gone through a lot of burdens. You can't see both of them at the same time. And trauma makes it very highly likely that we're going to see just the one who's been burdened in whatever our partner does, unless we actively counter the negativity bias of the brain and express gratitude, get ourselves to notice, get ourselves to say, I love you. All of that begins to help us notice, focus on how this person is different.
It's an interesting thing you say, Jim, about gratitude, because gratitude seems to be the opposite of depression. How do you get people to do that? How do you, in your work, how do you get them in touch with gratitude?
It's a good question. I tell them, first of all, that it's going to make a lot of difference, and invite them just to slow down. What in the past week? When were you touched? When were you moved by something? And of course, if the trauma's been great, they haven't noticed it all. But I began to keep planting the seeds.
I think when it comes to gratitude, it's important to get out of the victim mode. So if you have a clear understanding of where you came from, how it's impacting you, to learn from it, not to place blame, and to just really come to accept where you are and where your partner is at and where they came from, then it's easier to feel gratitude for everything, the good, the bad, the not so pleasant. It's all part of what molds us, and it all influences who we become, and then that would give them the gratitude lens, which makes a huge difference as compared to the victim lens.
We were talking about culture in a couple, and if they have the dream, the culture to make lemonade out of lemons. That would help too. That determination.
Yeah, I think gratitude is a habit. So it sounds like for a couple that comes from a compromised background, that there's a couple things they can really do. Be curious about your partner. See what's going on in their world. Pay attention to positive things and practice gratitude. And if you do those three things, you're going to really see that there's a big difference in the marriage and the relationship that you manifest in your life.